Hello, good morning, welcome to the channel. I think that it's pretty fair to say at this point that the world is on fire. We've got wars in the past 12 months, past 18 months, past 5 years that we haven't really seen. Definitely haven't seen since I've really been born. I was born in 1998, so right at the end of the last century and very much kind of right at the end of the period of peace that fair to say my parents' generation experienced for a long time before me, especially since the end of the Cold War. We're in a really dangerous moment at the minute, and people really don't realise it. I think the best analogy that I've seen recently to describe the sort of current situation we find ourselves in is that we're driving off the edge of a cliff, and all we're doing is arguing about what seat we get to sit in. Genuinely haven't heard a better analogy for the situation that the world finds itself in at the moment, and it's quite tricky to know really where to start. So I read a really good book while I was on holiday recently by Anne Applebaum, and it's called Autocracy Inc. And it really connected the dots to me in terms of, you know, what I have kind of picked up on through a lot of my own research, and Anne Applebaum really ties it together really well and gives it a good name as well, which is Autocracy Inc. Now, what this effectively is all of the autocrats around the world at the minute are collaborating with the super rich, and the people that are losing the most because of this are the middle class. So in an economy, there's basically four sectors of an economy. So you've got the working class, the middle class, the super rich, and the government. Let me just turn my music down. Alexa, turn it down. So you've got these four sectors of the government, of the economy really, and what's happening is the super rich are aggressively taking everybody else's wealth. So I mean, it started in the 70s and the 80s with Thatcher really. The sort of mass privatisation after Thatcher was elected was sort of the first attack. So effectively after World War II, and Jimmy the Giant talks about this a lot, we had something called the post-war consensus, which is basically where the Labour government after World War II basically decided that it was time for everybody to have a share of the wealth, not just the super rich. And the idea was that it would stop war from sort of kicking out again. And it worked really well. The NHS was invented. We had probably the best equality standards in history, but it does seem to have been a bit of a blip. And via sort of Thatcher and Reagan, the super rich have then gone on the offensive. So privatisation was the sort of start of it, because what that effectively meant was we've sold off all of the government's wealth. So when you talk about the four sectors, or I talk about the four sectors of the economy, the government's wealth has effectively been sold off. So through privatisation, companies like British Telecoms, British Petrol, BA, British Aerospace, you name it really, it all got sold off one at a time, one by one by one by one. And what it meant is that the government didn't really have any wealth at the end of it. And secondly, Thatcher then smashed all the unions, which then took away all of sort of collective bargaining. So that then took away all of the sort of working class's power. So straight away Thatcher came in and with privatisation took away both the government and the working class's power to fight back. And then what we've seen since is the super rich promoting their representatives into the sort of most important political and economic spheres of influence. So whether you look at the revolving door between the big banks and the regulators in America, or if you look at the revolving door between sort of Murdoch's companies and governments here in the UK in terms of political influence, you can quite easily see that we've been extremely corrupted by the super rich. And what is now happening is they've weakened their own economies and democracy to the point where autocrats like Putin now feel extremely empowered. And that's why we had the invasion of Ukraine in 2014, because Putin now feels that democracies have weakened themselves enough so that he and he's kind of the only real example. I mean, Netanyahu in Israel is another story, but Putin now feels that the West and democracy is weak enough for him to go on the offensive. And most worryingly is the fact that the super rich have started funding the far right parties, which then also tie into Putin's sort of narratives as well. So we're in a really dangerous moment at the minute, and like I say, it's Churchill once said that effectively you can predict the future if you know your history well enough, and it's quite clear to see that he was right. We are heading towards another world war, because what's going to happen is we're going to have nationalists elected in every single country. Britain first, America first, Hungary first. Everybody can't be first. So if everybody's prioritising their own economic and political interests, then naturally that's going to lead to friction, it's going to lead to war. So the whole point of this channel, I can't control what happens around the world, but I really want to do my bit to try and fight back against reform here, because if everybody in their own countries can fight back against the far right, then as a sort of centre-left and as a progressive alliance, we have a chance. So a couple of shout outs. I want to give a shout out to Gary Stevenson, Gary's Economics. Check out the channel. This video wouldn't have started without him. Also read his book, The Trading Game, on holiday recently. Highly recommend it. There's a few other people that I want to give a shout out to. Tom Burgess would be a good one, the author of the book called Kleptopia, which kind of sparked my interest in fighting back against autocracy in the far right. Yeah, as time progresses, I'll make sure that I'm shouting out all the people that have inspired, and yeah, but we really need to create a collective to fight back. Otherwise, our futures are going to be stolen, my kids aren't going to be able to buy a house, or it's going to be even worse than that. So that's the whole point of this channel. If you are still watching, thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next video.